Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are here for another one of your questions about work. And this one is really fun because while our guest doesn't know it or didn't know it until we were talking just a second ago, I've been watching the evolution of her company since she first pitched it. And I was a CEO that was a possible client. We were just looking 8 or 9 years before I was before I went to the dark side. And so for those of you who are here for the first time, I'm Roy. I'm a startup investor in the future of work. We take one of your questions roughly every workday and ask an expert. And so today, thank you for being with us, is Kathryn Minshew, who's the founder and CEO of the Muse, which is a career platform that works with millions of younger talent in entry, mid-level roles, helping them find next steps. And so the question today is, as I hear about lots of these other new kinds of benefits, we had a founder ask us about fertility benefits the other day that he was considering offering at his company. Mental health counseling is another one that comes up. Whatever those new benefits are, how do I, as a person who works at a company, how do I appropriately ask about these additional benefits? And thank you, would love any perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really hot topic right now because, as I think everyone listening knows, a lot of people are leaving jobs. People are going to their employers and negotiating for more. And so, if you're interested in these alternative benefits, I think it's a great time to ask. I mean, honestly, there has never been a better time to negotiate as an employee. But I think it's important to remember, to sort of do it thoughtfully. And so my advice would be, first of all, start with your values, right? What matters most to you? Because you can't have everything, but you can have a lot of things. And if you know what you want, it's easier to get it, right? That's true everything in life, but it's particularly true with alternative benefits. Secondly, get a sense for what's out there. So what does your company currently offer? What do similar companies offer that yours don't? Is there anyone else in the industry that you can talk to? Some of the things I'm hearing about, so you mentioned fertility benefits, obviously expanded parental benefits are very popular. We're also seeing a lot of professional development benefits. I had a friend who was able to negotiate a $20,000 professional development package as part of her comp when her boss wasn't able to meet the kind of base salary that she wanted. But then she had $20,000 to spend on public speaking lessons, travel to a conference in Paris. This was pre-COVID. All sorts of investments in her career and herself, as long as it was sort of tangentially related to her success in her professional career. So you can ask for continuing education, you can ask for tuition reimbursement, commuter benefits, etc. And I think that the best way to think about this is, again, first of all, understand what matters to you most, what are other companies offering or other people like you being offered, and then set up time to have a conversation with your manager or with HR. Now, one of the things to find out is this a conversation about something they could offer just to you, like flexible work hours, better work from home, a change in title, a change in compensation, or is this something that they would need to offer to everyone? For example, parental or fertility benefits. And I think at that point, then it becomes two different approaches. But I would say, do your research. For any sort of individual conversation, it really helps to get permission for the conversation in advance. So this might look like asking your boss or your manager, hey, I want to talk about my role, my compensation, and some bigger picture questions I had. Do you have time in the next week? Or is now a good time? If you pop a conversation on someone when they're not in the mood or they're distracted, you are much less likely to get a fast no. You do not want the fast no. You could get a fast maybe. Obviously, a fast yes is great. But just making sure you're having the conversation at the right time is really, really, really important.
I love that. So I hear so much in there. I hear, number one, I hear implicitly you suggesting that there are differences in the tactics, whether you are already sitting in the job, or if you're negotiating to come into a place. Of course, you may have more leverage, especially now negotiating to come in. I hear that distinction between things that are just for you because of some special circumstance versus for everybody. And I also hear and believe this firmly as a CEO, that different kinds of benefits are easier for a company to provide than others, because salary is like, well, then I'm going to be fair to everybody, blah, blah, blah. But if you have a certain kind of a role, and especially I think one of the magical phrases is, this will help me do my job better, is always a thing that companies can consider as a different category of expense. And the range of things there can be pretty wide. I mean, an example of another one that comes up a lot that we hear about is elder care. Is you've got an aging parent and you need to be able to care for them. That kind of thing. Well, it's like, I'd rather not lose you as an employee. Do you want to take a month of paid leave for something? That kind of stuff can matter. And then the only other note, so that's what I hear you saying. The only other note that I'd look like you're about to say something.
Well, yes, I was going to say, I think I love what you said about, this is how something can help me do my job better. I think that is such a great point. The more you can frame any sort of ask as this is why it's good for you. So if you are a current employee, yes, you have less leverage than a brand new employee, but you still have a lot of leverage. Your teams don't want to lose you right now. And so I've seen people successfully go to their managers and say, I'm getting calls from recruiters. I don't want to take them. I want to stay here. But in order for me to feel great about doing that, I wondered if we could reopen the conversation about my compensation and benefits. You're being respectful, you're acknowledging the desire to stay, but you're also saying like, please let's work together to get to an outcome that we both want. Obviously, you have to know you're a valued employee to make that work. If you're poor performing, they might just be like, okay, well, take the call. And then I, you know what? I thought of something else based on what you said, but it's gone now. So it'll come back in a little bit.
I'll go slow in case it comes back. You can always interrupt. We express care here through interruption. So it's all good. The other piece that I believe is that many people are starting to employ the tactic of collectively understanding. Well, maybe I'm not the only person who is contemplating being a new parent or struggling with some issue at work. And that while everybody should, of course, know the law, generally speaking, talking to your coworkers about things you might all want and going collectively to the boss in some way, it can be a little bit scarier. So you have to do it carefully, meaning a little scarier for you and a little scarier for the boss. But if you said, hey, I've been thinking about this and I'm going to talk to some of the other folks who work here and see if other people feel the same way, sometimes that actually helps the boss gather ammo. Sometimes it might be scary for them, but it might turn out that there's some issue that's widely felt across everybody in the organization that nobody really talks about. And so that collective action is another muscle to start working.
Absolutely. And I've seen this work effectively when sometimes companies will ask, they might do a monthly, quarterly, annual survey. And I've actually seen people go and talk to friends of theirs and say, hey, I wonder if several of us wrote in and asked about better parental benefits, if maybe we could help raise that to management's attention. Then it's already out there. It's not just one single voice. I was also going to say that, when you understand, when you approach the management from this perspective of like, here's what I think would be really impactful and meaningful for employees here versus do this or we're all out. Nobody likes an ultimatum, but right. I think there is an openness right now, and a lot of companies people want to listen, and good companies, at least I would say, are trying to listen, are trying to understand because they recognize that like this really matters. I mean, we introduced a filter on the Muse where you can actually search for jobs by benefits. So I want a job with paternity leave.
Whoa.
I want a engineering position with tuition reimbursement. And, that really matters. A lot of people are saying, I would change jobs or I would choose one company or another based on the benefits. And I think employers are cognizant of the fact that their existing employees might be thinking about those same things too.
I love that. Well, that is great, not advice. Comes down to so many of these little tactics of the wording of how you ask. I mean, it just occurred to me as you were talking, we coach founders to say, this is becoming a distraction when they want to ask investors about selling some stake in the company. If it's a distraction, it's going to prevent you from doing your job. And just for everybody watching for the first time, the reason we call this not advice is because we're not telling you exactly what to do in your situation or even prescribing something. These are stories that work from our own experiences, and Kathryn's got extensive ones, and up to you to make your own decisions. And so thank you, Kathryn. Anything you want? Parting shot before we go?
No, I love this. And I would say, at the end of the day, you've got to do what you're comfortable with. But I think it's a great time to build a work life that works for you better. And so the more you can articulate what that is, the easier it is to find it.
If not now, when? And of course, we're lucky to get to work in an industry that's generally supportive of talent. But I hope that everybody can find their way. All right. Thank you.